This is Soul Signal, where the soul comes to rest. My name is Patrice. In a moment, a story will begin. You don't need to do anything with it. You don't need to remember it or carry it or learn from it. Only let it move through you, the way water moves through open hands. If you've done everything right and it still doesn't feel like yours, tonight we sit with that. There is nothing wrong with you. There is something more waiting. Before the island, the breath. Place both hands on your belly, divine soul. Feel the warmth there. Not the warmth of the life you built. Not the warmth of the competent, the reliable, the one who handles things. The warmth underneath all of that. The one that was there before you learned what you needed to be to make things work. The one that has been waiting, quietly, in all the years of the building, for you to remember it is still there. Let your shoulders fall. The life you built will still be there in the morning. The responsibilities will still be there. The things that depend on you will still depend on you. Tonight is not about abandoning any of it. Tonight is about going deeper than it. Down to the place where what you actually want has been living since before you had permission to name it. 3 rounds. Slow. The island is out there. The fire is already lit. The hawk is already circling. Round 1. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts, like drawing breath from open sea wind, salt and wild and carrying nothing that belongs to anyone else. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7. Let the breath reach the hungry places, the ones that have been quietly unsatisfied for longer than you've admitted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through soft lips for 8. Let the performance of being fine go downstream. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Round 2. Inhale for 4. Gathering the part of you that has been watching herself from a slight distance. Hold for 7. Everything settling. The way the island settles at night. Wild garden, still cliff. Fire burning down to its honest core. Exhale for 8. Releasing the guilt of wanting something more. Round 3. Inhale for 4. The island knows you are coming. Hold for 7. Trust the wanting. Exhale for 8. Let the sea wind take what no longer fits. Now let your breathing return to its own rhythm. The rhythm that exists before you decide what you are supposed to want. Feel the bed beneath you, the weight of your body, the full weight, not the performing weight, the real one. Your jaw can release now. Your throat, your shoulders. They have been holding the competent version. They can put her down. Your hips, wide and real. Your hands, open. Your feet, resting at the edge of the island that has always been yours. If it feels right, let these words move through you the way sea wind moves through a wild garden. Not tidying, not arranging, just moving through and leaving everything more itself. Sacred hunger, God of the more, Spirit who placed desire in me before I learned to call it ungrateful. Remind me tonight that wanting is not the same as complaining. Where I have been performing gratitude for a life that no longer fits, give me the honesty of Circe on her island. The willingness to name what is mine and stop apologizing for not being smaller. Where I have been building from survival, remind me there is another way to build. Where the hunger has been living in the quiet hours, let it speak tonight. Not to act on, to be heard. And so the island opens, and so it holds. The island was hers, not because it was given to her, not because she had earned it through the correct series of choices, the right performances, the accumulation of enough goodwill that someone in authority had finally decided she deserved this particular shore. Because she had claimed it, quietly, without announcement, without waiting for confirmation that the claiming was acceptable. The way you claim the thing that was always going to be yours. Not by arriving dramatically, but by stopping the performance of not arriving. By simply walking toward it and not apologizing when you got there. She had been many things before the island. Daughter, sister, lesser, the one whose power made people uncomfortable at dinner, the one who was always slightly too much for the rooms she was placed in, too powerful, too strange, too unwilling to perform smallness convincingly enough to be comfortable company. She had tried. For a long time, she had tried. She had learned the dimensions of the smaller self, how much of herself to put forward, how much to hold back, which parts to make visible, and which parts to keep in the rooms nobody entered. She had gotten quite good at it. That was the thing nobody told you about performing smallness. You could get good at it. You could get so good at it that you forgot. for long stretches of ordinary days that there was a larger version still living underneath, waiting with the patience of something that knows it cannot be permanently suppressed, only temporarily arranged. The larger version had a particular way of making itself known. Not loudly. Not in the rooms where the performance was required. In the quiet ones. The ones at the end of the day, when the performance was over and the house was still, and she was finally alone with the life she had built and the question that arrived reliably in the silence. Is this all there is? Not a complaint, not ingratitude, just a question, clean and honest and persistent as the sea wind that had been moving through this island since before she arrived. She had spent years being afraid of that question, afraid of what it meant about her, that the life she had been given, the life that was, by visible measure, more than most, still left the question unanswered. She had tried filling the question. More responsibility, more competence, more proof that she was worth the space she was taking up, more performance of the gratitude she was supposed to feel, and sometimes did feel, and sometimes had to manufacture in the rooms where it was required. None of it answered the question. The question simply waited, patient and clear, and completely uninterested in any answer that was not true. You have been at that table, beloved, the table of the life that almost fits, the life that is good by visible measure, the life that other people would be grateful for, the life you built with real effort toward real goals that were the right goals for then. And the quiet thing you have been not saying, the thing that arrives on Sunday evenings, on long drives, in the shower when there's nowhere to be, is that the table is slightly too small. Not because something is wrong with you, not because you are ungrateful, not because the life is bad, because you have been growing and the table has not grown with you. And you have spent a significant amount of energy trying not to notice that, trying to sit more carefully at the table, trying to take up less space, trying to make the life that almost fits feel like it fits completely, by adjusting yourself rather than acknowledging that the adjustment is no longer working. That is not a character flaw. That is what happens when a woman has been told in one way or another for long enough that her hunger is the problem rather than the insufficient container. One morning, she had stood up from the table. Not dramatically, not with a speech. She had simply stood up from the table of a life that had never quite fit and walked toward the shore and kept walking until she found the island that was large enough for what she actually was. The island had been waiting, the way the right things wait. not with impatience, not keeping score, just present, available, ready to receive her whenever she was ready to arrive. She had arrived. That was the whole of it. That was the act of sovereignty that the stories always made complicated. The dramatic transformation, the thunderbolt of change, the moment of heroic decision. She had simply arrived, stopped performing her smallness, put down the coat that didn't fit, and walked onto an island that knew her name before she said it. The island was wild, in the particular way that things are wild when they have not been managed into someone else's idea of what order should look like. The garden grew in all directions, not chaotic, alive. The difference between chaos and life is intention. And everything on this island was here because she had wanted it here. Because it had something to contribute to the specific ecosystem of the life she was actually living. Because she had looked at it and known, in the body way, in the way that arrives before reasons, that it belonged. There were plants here that existed nowhere else, combinations that no gardener would have planned, results that could only come from a woman following her own knowing, rather than inherited instructions. She had not planned this garden. She had grown it the way you grow anything that is truly yours, by paying attention to what wanted to live here and getting out of the way of it. This was what her power looked like when it was not being performed smaller, original, specific, irreducibly hers, not impressive, not for display, just exactly right. The specific rightness of a woman inhabiting the exact size of herself. The moon was still low on the western horizon when she began her morning work. A thin crescent, barely visible against the brightening sky. She had learned to look for it every morning, not for any practical reason, just because it reminded her of the things that continue regardless of whether you are watching. The moon did not need her attention to complete its arc. The island did not need her gratitude to hold its ground. The garden did not need her performance to keep growing. All of it simply was, doing what it was built to do, being what it was. She was learning to live that way, simply being what she was, without the running commentary, without the performance review she had been conducting on herself since before she could remember. It was slower work than she had expected, harder in some ways. The habit of smallness was a well-worn groove. It had been walked for years. The new way required attention, not because it was unnatural, but because the old way had been practiced so long It had started to feel like nature. It wasn't nature. It was habit. And habits could be walked differently. The hawk was above her. It was always above her when she worked. She had not summoned it. It had been on this island before she arrived. It had been circling above this particular acre of cliff and garden and dark forest edge since before she was born, as if the island had always known that a woman like her was coming and had posted a witness to be ready. Its wing feathers caught the sun. Gold. Not yellow. Gold. The specific gold of her father's light. The sun gold that she had inherited, along with everything else that had made her too much for ordinary rooms. It circled once, slowly. The way things circle when they are marking something worth marking. Not to claim, to acknowledge. This is here. This matters. This is worth the circling. The cauldron was old, older than the island. It had been there when she arrived, left by someone whose name she had never learned, who had stood at this same fire and worked with this same vessel and left it behind the way makers leave things behind when they have finished with them. Not because they are broken, but because the work is done and the vessel belongs to whoever comes next. She had come next. She had been coming next for a very long time. The cauldron was blackened from years of fire. Not dirty. Seasoned. The way things are seasoned when they have been used for what they were made for. Consistently. Over a long time. Without apology for the using. She ran her hand along the outside of it before she lit the fire each morning. A habit she had developed without deciding to. The way you develop the habits that are actually yours. Not by choosing them, but by noticing, one day, that your hands already know the motion. The metal was cool in the morning. It would be warm by midday, hot by afternoon. That progression, from cool to warm to hot, was one of the rhythms she had built her days around. Not because she needed the structure, because she had found, on this island, that the rhythm she chose for herself felt entirely different from the rhythms that had been assigned to her. Both were rhythms, but only one of them felt like breathing. She had not always known the difference. For years, she had moved through assigned rhythms, the schedules of other people's needs, the calendars of other people's urgencies, the particular texture of a day organized entirely around what was required of her. She had been good at it. She had been excellent at it. She had shown up on time, done the thing expected, produced the result required, and returned home at the end of the day with the particular tiredness of a woman who has been fully competent and entirely invisible in the same motion. Not invisible to the world, visible to the world, invisible to herself. That was the thing she had not had language for until the island gave it to her. The specific way you can be seen everywhere and still not be witnessed. The specific way you can do everything right and still feel like you are watching yourself from a slight distance, waiting for the version of your life that actually fits to begin. You know this, beloved. The watching from a distance feeling, the competent, reliable, handling it version of yourself, moving through the day while something underneath watches and waits and occasionally, in the quiet hours, asks, when does my part begin? Not the part that handles things, the part that wants things. Not the performing self, the one underneath. The one that has been waiting with remarkable patience for the day when there is finally space for what she actually desires. That question is not selfishness. That is not ingratitude. That is the island calling. Everything she had learned to do, every transformation, every new thing made from old things, every discovery that something could become something else entirely if you applied the right heat and the right intention and the willingness to wait for it to be ready, had started here, in this vessel, on this island, before anyone was watching, before anyone had confirmed that what she was doing was worth doing. She had made things here that had no name yet, combinations that did not exist until she put them together, results that surprised even her, not because she hadn't intended them, but because intention and result are always slightly different things, and the difference is usually more interesting than the plan. This was the part of the work she had never been able to explain to anyone who hadn't done it. That the making itself was the instruction. That you did not need to know the outcome before you began. That beginning was the thing. The only thing. Everything else followed from beginning. She built the fire, the same way she built it every morning, slowly, starting with what was small and dry, adding what was larger gradually, not rushing the catching, letting each layer find its own heat before asking it to hold the next one. She had learned fire the same way she had learned everything worth knowing on this island. by doing it wrong first, by watching what actually happened rather than what she had expected to happen, by adjusting not her expectations, but her hands. The fire caught, the way it always caught when she didn't rush it. She set the cauldron above it and stood back and waited. She had been thinking about waiting lately. Not the anxious waiting, the kind she had done for years in the life before the island. The waiting that was really a form of bracing, a holding of the breath between one required thing and the next. That kind of waiting had been exhausting. It had not been rest. It had been suspension. The body paused, but the mind still running, still cataloging, still preparing for what came next, so that when it came, she would not be caught off guard, would not be seen to not know what to do, would not give anyone reason to question whether she was capable of handling what she had taken on. That was not waiting. That was vigilance dressed as patience. This was different. Standing back from the cauldron, watching the fire find its work, she was not bracing for anything. She was simply present, here, in this moment, on this island, with this fire doing what fire does without requiring her guidance. She had not known before the island that there was a kind of waiting that was not vigilance, that rest was not the absence of work, but the presence of trust. Trust that the fire would catch, that the thing in the cauldron would transform, that the work she had begun would complete itself if she gave it the right conditions, and then step back and let it be. She was learning to step back, not from the work, never from the work. The work was hers and she wanted it, but from the managing of the work, the supervising of her own process, the running commentary that had accompanied everything she had ever made, the voice that evaluated each step against an imagined standard held by imagined observers who may not have existed at all, but whose approval she had been seeking since before she could name the seeking. The island had given her silence from that voice. Not permanently, not even consistently, but in moments. In the morning fire building, in the evening cliff standing, in the hours of unhurried making in between, the voice went quiet. And in the quiet, she could hear what she was actually doing, what it actually was, what she actually wanted it to become, without the evaluation, just the truth. The truth was simpler than the evaluation had led her to believe. She wanted to make things, not to prove she could, not to earn a place at a table, not to demonstrate to the rooms that had found her too much that she was, in fact, exactly enough. She wanted to make things because making things was what she was built for. Because the specific satisfaction of putting intention and heat and the accumulated knowledge of her hands into a vessel and watching something new emerge, that satisfaction was not a reward. It was the work itself. She had spent years treating the satisfaction as the destination, the thing she would feel when she finally arrived at the life that fit. But the satisfaction was not at the destination. It was in the work. It had always been in the work. The destination kept moving because destinations do. But the work was here, every morning, waiting for her hands. This was what she had been trying to tell herself in all the years before the island. In all the Sunday evenings and the long drives and the midnight hours of the life that almost fit. Not that the life was wrong. The life had been real. Real things in it. Real love in it. Real work in it. Real moments of the satisfaction she was always moving toward. But the frame had been wrong. She had been building toward something external, toward approval, toward arrival, toward the moment when someone or something outside herself confirmed that she had done enough, been enough, deserved enough to finally rest in the life she had actually wanted. That confirmation was never coming. Not because she was unworthy of it, because the confirmation could not come from outside. The only confirmation that meant anything was the one she gave herself, standing at her own fire, on her own island, with her own hands on her own cauldron, doing her own work, for no reason except that it was hers to do, and she wanted to do it. That was the island. That was the whole of it. Not exile, not escape, not a dramatic withdrawal from the world. Just a woman who had finally stopped waiting for external permission to inhabit her own life. You have a cauldron, beloved. Not literally, but the accumulated knowledge of everything you have transformed. The seasoned vessel of yourself, blackened from years of use, shaped by everything you have put through fire, holding the residue of every season when you made something from what was available to you. That vessel is not empty. It is rich, dense with the history of what you have made and what you have survived and what you have transformed when transformation was the only honest option. The question is not whether you have a cauldron. The question is what you put in it now. Not from survival, from desire. Not from what is required, from what is wanted. not from the life that almost fits, from the one that is actually yours. The guilt voice came. She recognized it. She had been hearing it for years, particularly here on the island, when she was most herself. It said, "You have everything. Power, freedom, an island entirely your own, a fire that answers to you, a garden that grows what you intend. Why isn't it enough? What kind of woman is never satisfied? What kind of woman built all of this and still wants more?" She let it speak. She had learned not to fight it. Fighting gave it more energy. She had also learned not to agree with it, which had taken longer. Because the guilt voice was so reasonable. It made such good points. It cited real evidence. It named real things she had and asked, with genuine logic, why the having of them was not sufficient. And the answer, the real answer, the one she had not been able to say in any room before this island, was not that the things were insufficient. They were real things, good things, things she was genuinely grateful for. The answer was that gratitude and desire are not the same thing. That being grateful for what you have does not require you to stop wanting what you don't yet have. That a woman can hold both, the real gratitude and the real hunger, without one canceling the other. That was not greed. That was wholeness. That was a woman refusing to choose between the life she has and the life she wants, insisting instead on the radical possibility that she is allowed to have both. You know this voice, beloved. It is not your enemy. It is the internalized voice of every room that found you too much, every table that was too small, every system that worked better when you performed smaller. It is the voice that learned from long experience that wanting is dangerous, that desire leads to disappointment, that the safest thing is to make yourself comfortable in the life you have built and stop looking at what it doesn't hold. It is protecting you in the only way it knows. And it is wrong about this. She stirred the cauldron, not because there was something in it yet, because the act of stirring was the act of intention, of saying, I am here, I am working, I am not performing gratitude for a life that doesn't fit. I am making the one that does, even tonight, even without a finished plan, even without knowing yet what the finished thing will look like, even without anyone's permission except her own. The wanting is the beginning, not the plan, not the strategy, not the fully formed vision presented to a world that has agreed to support it. The wanting. The honest, persistent, quiet wanting that has been living in the midnight hours and in the Sunday evenings, and in the part of you that keeps asking, is this all there is? That question is the first ingredient, the most important one, the one everything else is built on. Put it in the cauldron. Let the fire find it. Let it become what it is going to become. You do not need to know yet what that is. This is not the moment to have the plan. This is the moment to acknowledge the wanting. This is the moment to stop apologizing for the hunger and let it be what it has always been. The signal that something real is waiting to be made. The hawk landed on the cliff edge above the fire, its gold wing feathers folding into the particular stillness of a bird that has arrived at exactly where it was going. It looked at her, not with the assessing look of a creature deciding whether you are worth its time, with the recognizing look, the one that says, I know what you are. I have always known what you are. I have been waiting on this cliff since before you arrived for the morning you would stop explaining yourself and simply work. She nodded. One nod, between equals, and turned back to the cauldron. The light was changing, the way island light changes when afternoon becomes evening. Not a dimming, a deepening. Everything becoming more itself as the direct sun left it, and the slanted light of late day found the angles the noon had flattened. She had learned to love this hour more than any other, not because it was the most beautiful, though it was, but because it was the most honest. The noon light flattered everything equally. The evening light was specific. It found exactly what was worth finding and left everything else in soft shadow. She had come to think of it as the light of accurate seeing, the light that did not perform beauty, but revealed it in the things that actually had it. The garden was extraordinary at this hour. She had noticed it every evening, and it had not become less so with repetition. The specific quality of light that made her garden look exactly like what she had intended when she planted it. Wild and purposeful simultaneously. Alive in a way that tended things are not alive. Not the manicured alive of a garden someone else approved. The genuinely alive of a garden that had been grown by a woman who listened to what wanted to grow and got out of its way. There was a difference. She had grown both kinds. She knew the difference in the body, the slight heaviness of the tended garden, the performance of order, the faint sense of managing something that would prefer to be left alone. And then this wild, specific, irreducibly hers garden that grew because she had wanted it to and flourished because she kept choosing it. This was not vanity. This was the specific pleasure of a woman who had made something that expressed what she actually was. Not what she had performed, not what she had been asked to be, what she was. And the specific pleasure of that was a thing she had not been able to name in any room before this island. You deserve that pleasure, beloved. The specific pleasure of a life that expresses what you actually are, not what you have been asked to be, not what you have performed convincingly enough to be considered successful, not the life that proves you can handle things, not the life that looks right from the outside, from the angle of other people's approval, from the view of the table that was always slightly too small. The life that is yours, in the specific way that this island is Circe's, not because it was assigned to her, but because it is large enough for what she actually is. That life exists. It is not hypothetical. It is not aspirational. It is not waiting for you to earn it through some final proof of your worthiness to inhabit it. It exists. You've been sensing it in the wanting, in the Sunday evenings, in the midnight hours when something in you keeps asking if this is all there is. That question is not ingratitude. It is the island calling. It has always been calling. You are only now beginning to hear it without immediately talking yourself out of what you heard. She walked to the cliff edge as the fire settled behind her. The sea was darkening now. The particular blue-black of deep water in the last light. The color that the sea becomes when it is no longer performing its daytime blue and is simply being what it actually is underneath. She stood at the edge and let the wind come. The sea wind did not ask her anything, did not require her to be prepared, did not check whether she was ready. It simply came, the way it had come every evening since the first evening she stood here, and touched her face and moved through her hair and carried on. She had stood at this cliff edge on evenings when she was certain, on evenings when she was not, on evenings when the wanting felt clear and clean and possible, on evenings when it felt like the most arrogant thing in the world, to want more, to believe there was more, to stand at this cliff edge, looking at a horizon and feel persistently that there was something on the other side of it that belonged to her. The wind had come on all of those evenings, without preference, without judgment, without requiring her to have it figured out before it arrived. The hawk was above the sea. She could see it from the cliff edge where she had walked as the fire settled. a single dark shape against the rose and indigo of the evening sky. Not hunting, not moving toward anything, simply there, above the water, in the air that belonged to no one, and therefore to everyone willing to inhabit it. She had learned something from the hawk in the years on this island. It did not apologize for its altitude. It did not circle lower to make the creatures below it more comfortable with its presence. It flew at the height it was made to fly at, and the view from there was the view it was made to have. This was not arrogance. This was accuracy. The accurate inhabiting of the life it was built for. She was learning accuracy. That was the real work of the island. Not transformation. Not becoming someone new. But the slow, patient work of becoming more precisely who she had always been. Removing the performances, one at a time. Not dramatically, just noticing when she was performing and setting it down. The way you set down a coat when you realize you've been wearing it indoors for so long that you forgot it was a coat. The moon was rising now on the eastern horizon. A thin crescent, barely there. The same one she had watched descend in the west that morning. It had made its full arc while she worked, without fanfare, without requiring anyone to witness it, simply completing what it had begun because that was what it was built to do. She watched it rise. There was something in that she had been trying to learn for a long time. The willingness to complete your arc without requiring anyone to watch. To do the work because the work is yours to do. Not because the doing of it will finally prove something to the rooms that found you too much. The wanting is not about them. The island was never for them. The life that fits is not a response to anyone's doubt about whether you deserved it. It is simply yours. The way the arc is the moon's. The way the altitude is the hawk's. The way this island has always been hers. She stood at the cliff edge and felt the sea wind, and watched the crescent moon, and let herself want without apology. Not as a declaration, not as a statement, just as a fact, clean and simple and hers. She wanted more. She had always wanted more. Not more than someone else. Not more than she deserved. Just more of the life that was actually hers. More of the work that came from desire instead of survival. More of the days that felt like this evening. Specific and honest and exactly the right size. That wanting was not a wound. That wanting was not a flaw. That wanting was the island, reminding her of what she had come here to claim. Let me bring you somewhere simple now. Not the island, not the cliff, not the fire or the cauldron or the hawk above the evening sea. Just this room, this particular dark, this body that has been wanting something for a long time now and has finally been given permission to say so. You are in your bed, beloved, not the island, your bed, the one that has been holding you every night through all the years of the life that almost fit, the same bed. But you are not the same woman who lay down in it last night. Something has shifted, not dramatically, not with announcement. The way things shift when you finally stop arguing with what you know. Quietly, in the body, below the level where words live. You let yourself want tonight. That is not a small thing. That is the beginning of everything. Feel the weight of your body now. The full weight. Not the performing weight. Not the competent, reliable, handling it weight. The actual weight. The weight of a woman who has been carrying more than she was meant to carry alone, and is now in this bed, in this dark, setting some of it down. Not all of it. You don't have to set down all of it tonight. Just the performance. The gratitude performance. The fine performance. The I have everything I need performance that has been running somewhere below your conscious thought for longer than you can remember. You can set that down tonight. It will not be needed here. The shoulders. Let them fall the full distance. They have been holding the competent version. The one who handles things, the one who shows up, the one who does not complain because complaining feels like ingratitude, and ingratitude feels like betrayal of all the real things you genuinely have. Let the shoulders fall anyway. Gratitude and desire can exist in the same body. They have been existing in the same body this whole time. You do not have to choose. The chest. Let it expand. Not with effort, with permission. The chest has been slightly contracted. A low-level bracing. The physical shape of a woman who is managing her wanting so it doesn't spill into rooms that won't receive it. There are no rooms here tonight. Only this bed. Only this dark. Only you. Let the chest expand into the full size of what you actually are. You are allowed to take up this much space. You have always been allowed. The belly. Soft. This is where the wanting lives. Not in the mind, not in the strategy, in the body. in the belly-deep knowing that has been sending the same signal for years now. In the Sunday evenings and the long drives and the shower moments and the midnight hours. The signal has always been the same. Is this all there is? And the answer, the real one, the one the island gave her, is no. And you already knew that. And the knowing is not ingratitude. And the wanting is not a wound. And the island exists. And it has always been yours. The hips, wide and settled into the mattress, heavy, real. This body has been the instrument of all that competence, all that reliability, all that showing up. Let it rest now. Not because the work is finished. It is never finished. But because tonight you are not required to produce anything. Not results. Not proof. Not evidence that you deserve the rest you are taking. You are allowed to rest simply because it is night. And you are tired. And your body knows how to do this, even when your mind keeps trying to make it conditional. The hands. Open now. The maker's hands. The hands that built the first life. The hands that will build the next one. They are resting tonight. Open and warm and holding nothing except the fact of themselves. Their own capable warmth. Their own quiet readiness. Their own knowledge of what they are built for. The wanting does not need to be gripped tonight. It does not need to be held tightly to keep it from escaping. The real things do not escape. They wait, patient as island stone, present as sea wind, certain as the hawk circling above the cliff since before she arrived. You can open your hands. The wanting will still be there in the morning. More clear maybe, more ready, more yours. The jaw, soft. The space behind the eyes, which have been reading and interpreting and tracking and managing since before breakfast. Let them close now, all the way, into the particular darkness behind closed eyes that is not empty, but full of the image of a woman standing at a cliff edge at evening with sea wind on her face and a hawk above her and a fire behind her and a crescent moon rising in the east. That woman is not a myth. She is not a story you are watching. She is the version of you that has been waiting on the island since before you knew the island existed. She is not aspirational. She is not future tense. She is already there. She has been there. She is standing at the cliff edge right now, watching the same moon you are watching through whatever window the dark behind your eyelids shows you. The wanting is not ingratitude, beloved. The wanting is the island calling. You built from survival. That was intelligent. That was the right thing for then. And something in you, the part that has been asking, is this all there is ready now to build from desire. Not tonight, not with a plan, not with a strategy and a timeline and the full picture of what comes next. Those will come. They always come once the wanting is finally named. But not tonight. Tonight only the naming. Tonight only the acknowledgement. Quiet, honest, no performance required, that there is something more and it is mine. And I am going to stop apologizing for knowing it. The room around you is settling into its night version of itself. The sounds of ordinary life continuing without requiring your management. The dark doing what dark does, holding everything in it without preference, without judgment, without asking any of it to be different before it lets it rest. You are held in that dark, the same way everything is held, unconditionally, without a performance requirement, without a worthiness threshold, just held. Somewhere on an island above a dark sea, a hawk rides the evening air. Sun gold wings, accurate altitude, no apology for the height. And Circe, the one who stopped performing smallness, the one who claimed the island, the one who stood at the cliff edge and let herself want without apology, is at the fire now. The evening fire, the one that burns lower than the day fire, but warmer. The one that does not need to prove anything. The one that simply is. She is not explaining herself to anyone. She is not making a case for the life she has chosen. She is simply living it. Evening by evening, fire by fire, wanting by wanting. And tonight, beloved, so are you. The island was always yours. The wanting was always right. The more that has been calling, it is real. It has always been real. 7. Affirmation drift. 65 minutes to 67 minutes. Near whisper. Long silence between each line. She falls asleep in side bees. The island was always mine. The wanting is not ingratitude. It is the call. I build from desire now. The more that is waiting, it is real. the island was always mine. The story becomes sea wind now, becomes the particular fire that burns on an island that belongs to the woman who claimed it, becomes the dark garden growing in all directions because someone wanted it to. Circe is at the cliff edge, the hawk above the sea, the cauldron cooling behind her, the island holding everything she actually is. May the wanting in you tonight rest without apology. May the island that has been calling feel closer than it did this morning. May the sea wind touch your face and find you exactly as large as you are. Sleep now, divine soul. The island hawk is keeping watch. The fire does not go out. The island was always yours, yours, held, home. Rest here as long as you need. The story has done its work. You don't have to hold it. You can let it go the way you let a breath go, completely, without watching where it goes. Soul Signal will be here when you return. There are more stories waiting, more nights like this one. Until then, may you dream in light. May you wake in grace. And may you always know you are the signal.